busy at work today. I was just like, oh my god.
Hello, everybody. Is everyone here for the Dunhill Spooky? Yeah, nice. We're sorry. Right off the bat, we apologize. There's an issue with the mics. So we are going to be speaking this way. And then if you miss anything, you can go ahead and go back and listen to the recording, which is going to be on the Hex-Files pod, which is these two lovely people right here.
Sometime. That was into the month.
Super nice. But my name is Jason. I'm the guy who does SpookyCLT on Instagram. I do deep dives into all things spooky about Charlotte, whether it be ghost stories, paranormal experiences people have had, fun events, just anything that, you know, makes you say, oh, that's spooky. And then you are?
Well, I'm Josh, and
I'm Tamara.
and we do Hex-Files podcast, which covers paranormal, cryptids, things like that, but then also we go investigate places like the Dunhill, and then we like record our findings and stuff for episodes. We recently went to, where was it? Medoc Mountain, to look for Bigfoot. We got some crazy like calls around us that look weird, but so we do all kinds of things. But tonight we are talking about, we stayed at the, thank you. This is only one. It's supposed to be but this is about our stay at the Dunhill, which we did on December 20th.
Yes. So tonight I'm going to be doing a little bit of history about the Dunhill, starting from when it was built. And then we're going to talk about ghost stories that are affiliated with it, whether it be from articles we've read or people we've talked to, and then they're going to discuss and show you their findings for it.
We're going to try to show you.
Yeah.
It looks like it's working. We do have some audio. We're going to like let them know whenever we have a video going, but yeah, we did capture some things that you need to hear, so
Yeah.
like one thing.
What thing? A thing.
A thing.
Yes.
But it was fun, so.
So since we're in such like this intimate setting, if anyone has any questions or comments, or if you're in the crowd and you're like, I cannot wait to tell them my ghost story, this is the opportunity to do so.
Yell at us, we can hear you.
Yeah, we literally can hear you. You can hear us hopefully. So I'll start off with the history. The Dunhill Hotel, which is this lovely building right here. Has anyone stayed there? You stayed there? Perfect. Us too.
Do you remember what we stayed in one of the rooms. I don't remember the
You
number.
stayed in 401.
401.
I stayed in 906. Do you remember what room you stayed in? It was probably haunted. I'm hoping. So the Dunhill Hotel was constructed during the Great Depression in the 1930s. It was originally known as Mayfair Manor and was purchased for $200,050. In 1926, by Dr. J.P. Matheson and C.N. Peeler, who were the founders of Charlotte Eye, Ear, Nose, and Throat Hospital. It's still...
Are they still the ones that are like doing the eye, ear, nose, throat? But I think they did away with I forget.
Yeah, now it's just eye and ear.
Eye and ear, okay.
They still do throw. They're my doctors.
So, still prime real estate. If you're not familiar, it's downtown next to where Discovery Place is, across from the Charlotte Theater, which is also haunted but under construction right now. And it's close to some great bars like Reraz or Prohibition.
Dreamrise is like still.
I don't think so. They post on Instagram now, so I think they're open because it's mostly a restaurant. But also another haunted location. So if you are looking into this stuff, that's another place to check out. So in 1928, architect Louis Asbury Sr. was hired to begin to work on the hotel. Note that Asbury is actually the current name for the restaurant we stayed there. He was trained by Italian craftsmen and helped to create what they call cathedrals famous for soaring elegant roof lines. And on the website, I found this really pretentious quote that I wanted to share with you, because in my notes there was no way for me to turn this into something that wasn't douchey. But it says,
You could have tried.
I could have tried, I didn't. As Asbury began his work on the 10-story hotel with its refined architecture and neoclassical embellishments, he envisioned that it would stand boldly as a distinctive shape against Charlotte, North Carolina skyline. An amalgam of American, British, and Italian influences, Mayfair Manor would spark the interest of those with eye for detail, recognizing the hotel's European and early American origins as Asbury intended. As the concept for the hotel developed, it soon became clear that Matheson's faith in Asbury was well justified. All of this, and this is what it comes out like.
I mean, yeah, it's still like.
I mean, that's elegant.
It's still
So
cool.
I disagree because that's just a rectangle.
But it is a rectangle. Like it's like I love how like square the corners are, and now like there's like 10 whole floors. It's kind of a big deal.
But it's many rectangles together.
It's a bunch of small rectangles
I guess
and a little triangle.
90-degree angles equal great architecture.
It's geometry.
It's stunning, really.
Well, it's got that Greek bit at the top, kind of.
Like access.
No, you have to jump. Oh, that comes later. But
So no, but like that balcony up there that you see is like a balcony for like the presidential suite that we'll chat about later. It's really cool up there. I got to check it out.
there's a lot of construction right in front of it now, so it's good. It's good. You'll see in like some of the videos that we were in one of the little rooms over here.
Yes. So as Mayfair Manor opened to the public November 15th, 1929, at the time 100 of the rooms were condos, which is weird because if you're in Uptown, everything is just for rent. You can't really buy anything anymore. But the rest of the rooms were for hotel guests. And despite it being the Depression, newspapers praised the hotel as an architectural and social success. Mayfair Manor's original owner, Dr. Matheson, passed away August 1937, and the property was acquired by the Mayfair Realty Corporation. And then in 1959, the property was sold to Dwight L. Phillips, and renovations and improvements were ordered for about the same price of the cost. But that's how it looked originally, and so not much has changed. All the improvements, implementations that they've done have been mostly on the inside.
It's still the same shape, but you've got that little building off to the side
See, I
right
actually
here.
think that looks better.
It looks better when it's a drawing. But I think it's because there's like nothing else to compare it to. It's like, I don't know what this is back here. It kind of looks like,
That's now a parking deck.
right, it's a parking deck now. Which, but it's like, if you were living there, I'm sure, if it wasn't connected to a wall.
Makes
Well,
it
I'd like to point out that was probably amazing.
I think it got torn down in the 60s.
So then the hotel then sold again December 1960, and it was temporarily named the James Lee Motor Inn, which really gives me like a NASCAR vibe. Yeah.
The motor, yeah. No, it sounds more like, it's better than a motel, but it's not in its heyday.
Yeah, I guess that's the tough times.
Right.
And then in December 1980, owner A.B. Wilkins declared his partnership with Charles Kinnard to convert the property to luxury condominiums. But by 81, the two partners kept fighting, called it quits, leaving the property abandoned. So looking at this, it changes ownership quite a few times. Could be a sign that it's cursed, but it also could be a sign that that's just how business happens.
Word. But like, that's still probably back here. That's probably like atrium, right? Or fucking,
That would be the Grand Opening, wouldn't it? 'Cause that's just like 2 blocks that way.
I don't know. But you can see a lot more. Let's see, what was the, yeah, see, there's a fucking tower
Oh, that's
there.
First Tower, right?
No, isn't it across, which was across the street where they put the, you're gonna get in
Truist
trouble with
thing.
Shark, yeah.
Truist.
Yes.
That's first. Well, that's
Yeah.
the
and
tower
then they
formerly
put
known
the-
as first. Yeah.
Anyways, the Dunhill Associates purchased the hotel in 87, so mind you, from 81 to 87, completely abandoned, no one in the hotel, and spent nearly $6 million on renovations and acquiring the adjacent storefronts, which is now the Asbury, and then reopened it in 1988 as the Dunhill Hotel, along with its restaurant, which was called Thistle at the time, and now it is owned by the Dunhill Hotel Group and Summit Hospitality, which I think is the coolest thing because in college I worked for Summit Hospitality, and like, what are the chances that the one Hampton Inn in Wilmington that I worked at was the same group that owned a haunted hotel in Charlotte? It's like destiny.
So that's how you networked. You're like, something.
Yes.
Did that.
Did you still have like your badge?
Right.
I work here.
I put on my resume, I'm looking to be a general manager in a haunted hotel, and they're like, this is our guy. This is our guy.
Taped to the back
So
of my Disney badge,
we
too.
have all stayed at the hotel, so we're going to share you some of the stories that we go along with it. If you were to Google Dunhill Hotel right now and look for ghost stories, the number one thing that would come up is during that 8-year period where it was abandoned, it's known that it was the tallest public access building in Uptown Charlotte. So oftentimes people would either go into to get to the top to commit suicide, or our homeless neighbors would find shelter in there for however long. But while they were doing renovations in '87, they found an actual intact skeleton at the bottom of the elevator shaft. They actually did the whole like forensic treatment on it, and it turns out that they found it was a elderly Caucasian male who had most likely they had a limp and like a wrist abnormality. So he walked like that classic spooky zombie walk.
Yeah, we actually like were looking at that while we were staying in the room. It's like, oh, let's read them some of the things, and that's when we found out about the dude in the shaft.
Yes. So if you were to go in the hotel now, though, the elevator shaft that had the bones in it is completely different than the elevator shaft that you would go in now to get to any of the floors.
Right, because there's just the one, right? Well, I mean, there's like
one
there's
elevator
one,
shaft.
yeah, but I think there's like two.
Not that I know.
Well, because we got like they let us. It seemed like they got permission, but they were like, "Here's a back room. We'll leave all the doors unlocked." And so like we got to go down to the bottom of what we assumed was the old shaft. I don't know. Maybe you can tell us. Yeah,
the stairwell. That
Right.
spooky stairwell was the old elevator shaft.
yeah. There was like a bee hive down there, like the little beekeeping box.
Yeah,
and I'm
like
like,
the nightstand, Chester drawer.
I'm like, when did they have bees?
I don't know.
But anyway, it's down there. I think it's in a picture.
So then while we stayed there, we brought the romance package with the intention of like tipping them to be able to see all these haunted spots and talk to them and hoping that they would talk to us freely.
sure.
What we found is that our bartender told us a story about how her and a few other people saw in the banquet hall a woman in like a nightgown with long black hair down to her knees, that if you like walked to her, she would disappear, or if she walked at you, also disappeared. And then our waitress told us the story about how she was taking a cigarette break out by where the valet stand is, and it was in the middle of the night. They didn't have any guests, and if they did have guests, they were already in the rooms. But she heard almost like a witch cackle, like a maniacal laugh coming from inside, and it was either her or the older African American valet who definitely wouldn't laugh like a witch. So
He wasn't known to laugh like a witch. But what's weird is
That's
like
what you know.
we were walking around, we heard that fucking laugh
Yeah.
from down like where the valet section where you come in, but we were like, there's people down there, they're probably just laughing. Right? But we only thought about it because you told us about that. But you just like snuck in, you were like, I'm gonna do the witch cackle just real quick and then I'm gonna leave.
So before their stay, we actually all grabbed dinner together, and we really considered coming back and like banging on the door in the middle of the night.
Oh my god.
We didn't. So if it happened, it wasn't us.
Yeah, it didn't. But what's funny is like, so the banquet hall, we explored that part. I think I saw something we'll get to later, but it was something that was like, that disappeared. And I'm like, oh shit. And you're just like talking, because we're most active on our Instagram. And we did an Instagram live while we were in like some of the parts. And then you're like talking to the people on there, and I'm like, shh, something's over there. And you're like, huh? And I'm like, oh my god.
Is it the cops?
No, it's not the cops. But this was like, what, 12:30?
Yeah, it was like.
We waited until the kitchen staff, everybody left. But we did not get the romance package. We got the, because this was, okay, originally we were going to do cats.
Yeah.
You were going to try to have cats out there. And then,
Which is the Charlotte Area Paranormal Society. We actually had this whole like ghost hunt scheduled for the 8th, and then that afternoon is when they put in the curfew. So we were like, well, we're past curfew, so we're ghost hunting at 2 a.m.
yeah.
Decided to not be rebels in this case.
But then we thought, why not, we were like, why not just keep our room and like, you know, bring everything up and see. So we did grab dinner, we sat at the bar, and then you're just like, there was somebody sitting at the end, you're like, have you seen any ghosts here? You know this hotel's haunted? And
That's how you know I've been drinking.
And then she was like, what? You're
And
kidding.
her face.
Right.
She did not
know
know.
it was haunted. I don't know what room she stayed in, but we saw them leave the next day. They didn't seem scared, but we don't ask people that right away. But we did talk to the manager. What's her name? Sabrina. But she was very nice, and she was like, I'll show you around. I'll have somebody else show you around.
I respect your heart though on their story there. That's like
Right.
directness. I appreciate that.
It's rapid.
Yeah.
So, and then one last thing. When I started the SpookyCLT account on Instagram, one of the first times that I posted about the Dunhill, just saying that it has a paranormal history, a woman went out of her way to send me a DM about it. I'm going to read what it says. She said, back in 2003, when I worked there as an operations manager, some weird stuff happened. For example, whenever I worked the front desk, room 401 would always call me. I would call it back, and someone would answer it, and no one would be checked into the room. I would send maintenance to check it out, and the phone would always be working. I would never go into the basement unless I was with someone. It creeped me out that bad. Lights would go off and on all the time. It's been so long, I can't remember everything. And that place creeped me out so bad, I only stayed there 7 months. It is definitely haunted.
And that's the room we stayed in.
Yeah, so
Which we actually called because the people staying beside us, there was like a Panthers game on. Pretty sure it was the one they lost. And they were like drunk and cheering and stuff. And we're like, how are we going to investigate? How are we going to investigate ghosts coming up here? And
Scaring off all the ghosts.
yeah, but then we were like, oh, if we call the front desk, are they going to freak out? Like, oh shit, go wait, somebody is staying in there. And but no, we did not. We just called and asked them, like, can we book this room? And then they were like, well, that room you were talking about that you stayed in, we were going to do that one. But then we were like, we'll wait and do it maybe. Well, then in the big investigation, when you're trying to get everybody like to the room,
so we get access.
hopefully, you know, COVID will slow down
So-
and we'll get to
damn
do it.
vaccination.
Yeah, get your vaccination.
So 906 is like the most historically haunted room. You'll find that online, but there's no really reason why it is. So I asked the staff, and I got 2 different stories from 2 different staff members. The first one is they think it's haunted because every Canada Day, so July 1st, a family would come down from Canada and request to stay in that room. And a few years after, you know, they saw the pattern of it, they asked why, and they said, well, our mother died in that room, and this is how we feel close to her, which is weird. Or nice, I guess. And then another person said that, actually when I called ahead to make the reservation, she said that just a month ago, a woman came just loitering into the lobby, was looking around, and told the staff a similar story that she just found out who her real mother was. She found out that the mother had died in the hotel, and she found out that the mother had died in room 906. So the hotel is finding all these people who have died in the room. Not all of them were suicides. Some of them were. I've worked in hotels myself, so I can tell you that's actually pretty common, unfortunately. People killing themselves in hotels. Sorry. But here we are, constantly seeing room 906 over and over again. My wife and I, we stayed there right after our wedding to see. I know. To see if we felt anything in that room, and it was actually the day that they called Biden. You know, they announced that he was going to be president. So we drank pretty heavily, and any paranormal activity that happened was not.
They're like, man, these fuckers are passed out. Like, we're not even gonna touch them.
Yeah. So.
They were like lifting your lip like
Right.
you do a sleeping dog.
You're like, you have a Sharpie? I'm like,
So the staff asked us the next day if we experienced anything, and we were like, we honestly don't remember much after dinner. So.
but that happened to us. We stayed at a Green Park Inn in Loin Rock.
Yes.
And we got a little drunk because we were trying to because they did not want ghost hunters there. And they were like, you'll be disappointed. So we're like low key trying to ask like the bartender, like, you ever see any ghosts? And it took 7 drinks to get to that point. So we thought, and then we passed out, we're like, man, nothing probably happened. There's probably so much shit happened while we were passed out drunk. But, you know.
Yeah, so rule 1 of ghost hunting is don't do it drunk.
No, do it a little drunk, not all the way drunk.
We do the podcast drunk, so that's fine. But you don't want to actually do anything serious.
The actual
Drunk. But, yeah, you don't want to do the research. But
I mean, alcohol's a good tool if you use it like that.
Alex, do you have a question? Should I see your hand go up?
No, I was just like, she said, get vaccinated. And I was like,
Oh.
yeah, my
Yeah.
appointment's next week, yo.
yeah, we did first round. So we already got our first round. We're still here. I think that's a fake one. The second one's the one that they get you. No superpowers, no chips. But so we I had never been in that hotel. I always knew oh, it's haunted, it's historic. And then we were like, why don't we just fucking stay there? And then it was after you mentioned something, I was like, oh shit, we always want to stay there. And you're like, well, we're going to, and then we're going to try to have this and that. So that kind of just how this all ended up. And then we were like, well, let's have you on for an episode about it. And you're like, let's do it live at Petty Thieves Brewery. And we're like, sure, why not? That's not.
I get excited.
I love for people to see my face.
Right. Yeah. That's why you do a podcast. You don't want people to see you. But no, so what did we do? We went and checked out the graveyard with you guys on Remount. But then, which is what is it called?
The Schumann
Schumann Cemetery. Which if you saw it in South End, has like the white picket fence up there. You got that going. But it looked like they did ground penetrating radar.
They did, yeah. I thought I tagged it. I confirmed it with the guy who was like a property.
You probably did.
But if you're familiar with South End, on the corner of Youngblood and Remount, there is these few plots of gravestones. Not like the typical gravestone RIP, but it was like a rectangular outline of stone on the ground. And the news kept reporting that it was a slave cemetery because there's no headstones. Every few years they tell the same story, that there's a slave cemetery on the corner of Youngblood and Remount that these shiny new apartments are going next to, and they keep finding like dog poop there. No one knows it's there, disrespecting it. So me and a group of other people, we looked into it. We actually were able to find the family that was buried there, and it turns out the news had the story completely wrong. They must not have even Googled it because I had to find the grave site. It wasn't that hard, but it turns out that the Schumann family, who were roofers, so they definitely didn't have any slaves, and the first person that was buried there was in like the 1870s, so it wouldn't have even been during that time. But we organized this thing to put up a white picket fence around the grave site so people would stop taking their dogs there and tossing poop. And the family actually came out because they're so local. They came out and they helped us put up the fence. So if you're ever in South End and you're looking for something spooky-ish, I guess.
Yeah, but you did that.
Demystified it.
Right. So you don't just Google things, you do stuff.
Yeah. Queen City Nerve did a good piece on it.
But all that to say is like that's how I originally connected with you on Instagram. I was like, oh,
researcher.
like this is really cool that you're trying to get like the fences up, and then from there we started talking about let's look into this, or do you know about this? And this came like not long after. So that was the first time we had met, and then I'm glad you guys didn't try to come fuck with us after you left. No, we didn't have the romance package. Like nobody was paying for that.
It also came with champagne, strawberries, chocolate-covered strawberries.
Free breakfast.
Breakfast in the morning. So we had like
A dozen roses.
We had like a bottle of wine, but then they didn't have the cork opener. So I opened it with like a knife. And I'm like, but I could have just called it. But anyway, we were already like drinking, and we're like, let's do this. So we left you guys, and then we went back here, and that's when we had him give us the tour. And I think, okay, I took that out. That's where I was smoking out there by the valet, and I did not hear any witch cackles.
That's
Prison. It's like a prison.
It's a prison. This is prison architecture.
You can't look at that and be like, oh wow, Italian
But
neo-realism.
this is down there. It's like a case of stuff. I can zoom in. There's brushes.
Yes, they definitely honor their heritage.
Right.
There's kind of stuff in the lobby.
Yeah, and you can walk. You don't even have to ever. You can just walk in, look around. Well, that's
Think
true.
about how crappy your day was.
Let's not do that. But okay, so let me shrink this. But this was a weird thing here. I went. This is the same. There's nutcrackers and shit because it was Christmas.
That's not always me.
Right. Funny story about the nutcracker now. But when I walked back, it was like, was it the night? The only night we stayed there, and I was like, I went to smoke after we did everything, put everything away, and I smelled the strongest perfume down there. And now I'm starting to think, okay, well maybe somebody that works there, an employee, had very strong perfume. There were people checking in really late, but it was a very like old lady old lady like rose perfume. I was making sure like nobody was like
Old lady,
offended.
old lady,
like-
old lady. Don't see it.
But no, it's the rose perfume, and I'm like,
White diamonds.
Oh, it's but I was like, oh, that's very strong and like filling the whole room. And then I went down there, oh my god, like I smell perfume down there. But actually, is it a thing? And I've been in locations that are supposedly haunted that do have those like smells, but it's hard to tell because like it is the area where people are coming and going the most. That's true. But yeah, it didn't smell good, but it smelled old. Like rose.
Like 1930s.
Right.
We used to go to it every day in high school.
But you know that could be yes, like roses. So this is that's a picture of a room that we thought we were allowed to go in. That's the basement. Okay.
2 years.
This isn't the room, but so what we did was like
Yeah, can you tell us about what you have in the room?
yeah. So we've got they're over there, but we've got like an infrared and IR camera, so it sees in the dark if you have the IR lights. So you can turn off all the lights, and it kind of looks like purple through the screen. It's like a full spectrum, so it sees infrared and all that. The idea behind that is that it'll pick up different wavelengths of spirits and whatever might, you know, ultraviolet. It picks that up, things like that.
See with our human eyes.
Our human eyes, yeah. And then we have a FLIR camera, which is, there'll be some images on here from that. It attaches to the iPhone, but it's like a thermal imaging, so it picks up temperature differences. Right. That was weird because we have a haunted doll, which you can listen to on an episode of ours, and on our Instagram we have photos of this doll. But she's, at one point when we like did a session with her, she was actually warm, and she'd just been sitting like by herself, like nothing was touching her. So it's a cool little device, and like something where if you touch this, it would show warm, like immediately. So it's very sensitive.
A very defined handprint remains.
I think if you watch any ghost shows or shit like that, like they use FLIRs all the time. And this one just attaches to the iPhone, so it's nice and handy. But this is the area that we started with. Actually, I think the next picture, so that's what the FLIR image looks like. You can see the lights were on at the time and they had been turned off, so they were still warm. Or were they dim? I don't remember. But they were warmer, obviously, than everything else. You can see where the windows are, it's colder. And then, you know, it just kind of shows that. So we went in there and we were like, well, let's do some EVP. So we have a digital recorder for that. And that's just where, you know, you ask questions. And again, that's like made famous by ghost shows is you listen back and it picks up things that maybe human ear can't decipher.
So you don't process at the time.
Right. So we set one of those out. We were asking questions and shit. And this is by the window. This is the iPhone like delay for dim light, so that's why it's blurry. That's not a ghost. Right. If only.
I don't take it.
Right. So we're back there and we're like, let's go ahead and start in like one of these rooms that nobody's been in. They said during COVID, like they don't use these rooms. They used to do like continental breakfasts and shit like this.
Also, the Dunhill Hotel, it's now closed during the week, so they're only open from like Thursday night until Sunday morning. So if you're looking to support a local business, they count. Check them out on the weekends at the bar.
Yeah,
We're locals there.
Yeah, you could just go eat there.
Their staff is amazing.
They are really good. They are really
They
good.
show you where people have died.
Yeah, they'll point out where people died and things like this. So this, if the audio, this is
Everyone's been waiting for
right.
proof of the after.
Well, near proof.
Admitted to
This is it. We did it. But this was on our Instagram Live, and this was we were looking at something, and we've got an EMF reader which detects like changes in the electromagnetic. They're good for your microwave setting off, your oven, your refrigerator, things like that. But people use them to detect like radiate. People are afraid of it. Yes.
It's good enough for ghosts and adventures.
Right. It's good enough for us. Yes, exact baggage. But so I put it on this radiator slash vent, which is why it was beeping. But then I hear these footsteps come up, And I'm like, okay, somebody hears us in here, and we're gonna have to explain. And I see this shadow come to the frosted glass, and I was like, okay, stop. Like, they're gonna open the door, and then it just kind of disappeared. And I was like, wait, I didn't hear any other footsteps going back. I didn't hear anything, but what you caught was my reaction to it, and you not paying attention.
No. I was investigating.
Right. So let's see if it.
That's so much stronger than it was earlier. And then the Shadows podcast, which corner?
No, so there's this thud, and that's like, to me it sounded like footsteps. But when I watched this back, it's like this weird.
Sorry.
Anyway, it was, yeah, it was a
And then
thing.
the Shadows podcast, which corner?
Because I was like trying to shut it up.
That's such a good question.
But this right here is where you, it was like a figure. And then it just kind of dissipated. And I feel like you could see shit loose, but
And it was a live stream, and one of the people that was watching it was like, what was in that corner? Which is funny that that happened at the same time. Basically, that you saw an apparition.
yeah, so basically all you see is my reaction to be like, wait. Because I was trying to shut the thing off because I'm like, somebody's either coming or what did you do? I'm glad we're not paying you. So we were like, oh, well, somebody's coming in here and they heard us and they're probably like, who's fucking around in here?
Because my job when I go to a hotel is to open every door and
You were,
drawer.
you were going through every drawer and I'm like, stop, just leave it alone. And you're like, they want you to do this. I'm like, no, they
Like
don't.
100% of the doors you don't try to open are closed.
True.
Like, you have to open
There could have been a ghost in that door. But yeah, so I was sad because I was like, oh, did you catch that? And you're like, no, I didn't even see it. But I'm like, you heard the footsteps, I thought. Because I was like, somebody's coming, like, shut up. And nobody was there. And then like later in that video, we go to the door and like open it up and there's like nobody down there. We waited for the kitchen staff to leave because in that room, obviously they're made for continental breakfasts and stuff. The kitchen is like right below it, so you can just hear dishes and the dishwasher and all that. So we're like, we're gonna wait for them to leave. So there was like nobody back there. So we're just like wandering around, and this was the stairwell we talked about, where I think shouldn't the body be like.
Yeah, so this stairwell is what used to be the elevator shaft that they found the skeleton while under renovations.
Right.
So literally right there.
Right. So this is like looking down from like, and we went all the way down there. So I didn't leave in the, yeah. So I didn't leave in the birdhouse, the beekeeping house, but it's in there because there was a dead.
Just trust them. They have big eyes.
They have honey down there. Go get it. And so this we actually caught, and I didn't think until after we were walking in this room, and it was like a creepy vibe. And they explained to us that at a certain time, I think it was maybe before it used to be a brothel.
In the 70s.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And he said so. There's 100 rooms in the hotel, and there were only open 60 of them when it changed, I guess, to the like apartment thing. So I guess the people at the time, they had like exits to every street. He was like, there's hidden passages and stuff. So we were like, let's go find them. So we're like walking back here, and you stopped me and you're like, did you hear that voice? And I'm like, no. And I did not hear a single fucking thing, and you're describing it to me. And I'm like, wait, we were recording that. Let me go back and listen. And like, so I'm gonna let you guys hear this first before we say it. But this is where we hear a voice.
What?
You did. So I don't know how well that comes through. But if you listen when we start walking in, and I was like, if I just heard this video, I would think it was a floor creature. It says, hey. But you heard like a voice coming from like across the way. And I'm like, I didn't hear anything. which is common. Sometimes people hear and feel things that other people are investigating. Jesus Christ. I'm glad we're not a YouTube channel or anything. But no.
It's a $2 iPod.
So if you listen, you'll start hearing the Wood Creek, and then you'll hear that possible voice. Yeah, it's like right after the thud.
Eyes wide.
And I've listened to it 100 times. And sometimes I listen, I'm like, it's just the wood, and the other times I'm like, oh shit. And so we sent it to a bunch of people, and they were like, I don't know, but it does sound like a voice. But I was like, you just heard, like you said, it sounded like a gentleman's voice.
Yeah.
But to me, this sounds kind of like a. To me, this sounds almost like a kid, but I can see it. But so yeah, and then you react to it. You're like, I just heard hey, and I'm like, it was not. To me, it wasn't the Wood Creek because I was like, oh, that would have just been. But then after this, we were like fucking around and like, was that the door? But the door like shut.
Well, when I hear wood creaking or doors shutting, I don't get like full body chills and all my hair stand up. So it felt different.
And I didn't hear it, so I assumed that this was something you heard that I didn't. And I was hearing the wood creaking because it's like you're trying to be quiet, not to scare any ghosts away.
Scooby-Doo snake.
Right. Now this was from that room. We were doing like that's the EMF meter we have, and we did not get any EVPs. We did get. We listened back to all of the audio that we did. We didn't hear anything. Nothing static. Nothing that sounded like it would be like, oh, this could be something if we stretch. Like, because we typically throw that out. Like we're not orbs people. We don't. We're like orbs are just dust. Unless you see them like do something weird and then something happens. It's like okay. But for the most part, like if we listen to every little thing. But yeah, that hay was like a little bit too weird to leave out there. Now this is like the back side. This actually, if you go to the left, if you're looking in that direction, that's where the stairwell is. Because we're like, what's behind this door? And we opened it and the stairwell was back there.
Was that the one?
No, yeah, it was. Because right after this, we started hearing a phone ring. And this was like almost 1 a.m. And we're like, oh shit, it's a phone ringing, like, but where's it coming from? And who's calling at 1 a.m.? People have cell phones now. Like, what? I don't understand. Oh, this is, yes. Or like, hello, fellow light worker. Getting a lot of those on Instagram.
So some context to this video. This is actually one of ours from when we stayed, but like I said, that night we were drunk and we went floor by floor looking for ghosts.
We also went 4x4 and we're like,
but like with it just being our wedding, we hadn't put any money into investing in ghost hunting equipment. So all we had is this little Boy Scout compass and a thermometer.
So you mean to tell me you just had a wedding, you didn't buy all this equipment? Like, was that not, were you not registered anywhere?
So,
like Ghost Stop or something?
We were, but since we had to postpone, we didn't get his money.
But anyway, so we went to the floor
Not
with
that I'm
our compass
complaining.
and we did find something weird,
Not complaining.
which we'll show to you now.
That is audio in here.
Wait. Alright, look at this. So for whatever reason, the compass was like really attracted to this one room. And you can see like the fire puller thing or whatever, but when we tried putting the compass to other ones and it didn't react the same, it didn't react the same to the locks. There was only this one floor and this one room, and north would have been at like kind of where
Where
it's
it's pointed
pointed
now.
there, that direction. But you see, it goes with the door.
Yeah, it stays like pointing to it.
Yeah.
Was anybody staying in there?
No idea. If they did, they're probably terrified. Yeah. It was on 10th floor.
They got the ghost package. They didn't buy it.
So we went up like the elevator, like when nobody was around. We like went up to every floor, and we're like, oh, this is that room. And we're like, people were staying because they had their like food out, after room service. And but we were like, we don't want to be like the creepers, like they were sneaking around the halls. But we also
don't
wanted
want
to
to
be.
be that, but we will be.
There was one floor where we actually got an EMF hit. That's the only thing we brought because like I was like, oh, it's just in my pocket, you know.
Yeah.
We're here looking for gas leaks or something, you know.
Very beneficial business opportunity.
Did they take it after I'm questioning you.
So this is where we hear the phone ring, and there was an office down at the end of the hall, but like, why would anybody be calling the head of catering, the catering supervisor at midnight at 1 a.m.? Unless they're like,
Unless it was a ghost.
Yeah, I need breakfast catering now. Let's see. Here it's like the last ring. Yeah.
My metal was an old time meeting.
Yeah. Hello.
We'll make this into a movie.
It was the only way that I knew anybody.
Like where you dial, you have to dial. But this is across from like where I saw the figure. Would have been on the other side of those doors.
$50 to anyone who sees a ghost in this video.
I didn't even know there was such a thing.
I see an orb. I see an orb. I was like, we do actually move in this. Okay. I was like, why did I even add this? But it was ringing for what? A few minutes by the time we got out of the room and like got the camera set up.
Like it's so overpriced. Like, and he was we got a deal the first year we were there.
I watched too many YouTube videos. How many full out
For me,
Like a jump scare. Oh, well,
barely used any of the
so then it was time to go back to the room, and this is some of the stuff we use. So we have this old Ouija board, which I think is dated from the 1910s, 1920s. Off eBay, somebody was like, I found this in an attic, like hidden behind the wall, something like that, you know, one of those stories. But then we've got the digital recorder, and that's the little infrared camera. It's like a Wish.com fucking GoPro. And then we've got the clear camera. This is our spirit box, which we've upgraded, but it's the same style. And what that does is it searches radio stations really quick, where you don't actually hear things, but then the idea is that spirits will manipulate those frequencies using words. And with our haunted doll, we've checked out a couple places. We use something called the Estes method, which was done by, if anybody's ever seen Hellier or Kindred Spirits, that's where that thing came from. You put the isolation headphones on, you put a blindfold on, and then somebody asks questions, and then the person just spouts out whatever they hear. So there's, you lose that, like, I know what questions you're asking. I know what, because when you're saying things that you hear, it sounds like nonsense.
Yeah.
And then every time you're done, you're like, did that line up? You're like, oh God, it's like it did. And then this is our EMF meter. But we did a Ouija board session, because tell us the story. Did you say that room somebody had tried a Ouija board in 90?
Oh yeah,
Is
so
it 906?
once again, 906, yeah. It was right after the Oddities and Curiosities Festival. Someone had just bought a Ouija board, brought it into the hotel, came downstairs the next morning, telling the whole staff, like, holy shit.
That's what you do. You take your brand new Ouija board.
Yes.
Don't do nothing to it. Just throw it into a haunted room.
Exactly.
See what it does.
See what happens.
We do have a Fisher Price note. We have like the glow in the dark Ouija board.
Yeah, we have.
We thought this one was more, yeah. Put the glow in the dark, it's fun.
Haven't broken it in yet.
Okay, so we didn't actually get coherent answers on the Ouija board, but it was fucking active, like more than like any time I've used it. To the point where it felt like a commercial. I'm like, you're moving this, right? And you're like, no, you're
moving it.
right.
I'm not even touching it.
So this was like a 20-minute
I've
session.
been dead for 10 years.
And so this is just a clip, because I wasn't going to put the whole 20 minutes in here of us playing with the Ouija board. But
Especially cast spells.
Lights shut off.
You can use this planchette and this board to cast spell words talk to us if you're not familiar. Or you've used these before with guests. Like, that's what we're gonna do. So, and we're just here to talk. Probably just nothing, right?
So this thing
Which
just
I
started
really
fucking
like.
leaving.
Like my hands are barely on it. She said yes.
Does Brad have a thing for me?
Okay, what's your name?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I've got one finger on it.
So we asked his name.
It's just like, no. Now, do you have any idea what time it is?
Bitch, I was sleeping.
And the famous Ouija board, Demon, Zolo. Isn't it Zoso or something?
So who knows the famous Ouija board demon?
Yeah.
Zozo? Yeah, okay.
Nobody told me about that.
Right. So like, did we put goodbye? We'll figure it out later. But like,
That's our hotel room.
so
So don't get too
so like, don't do that.
And the famous Ouija board, Demon, Zolo.
So
Isn't it Zoso or something?
But she's still going for it.
Yeah. For science.
Real fun. I don't know what it is.
It did a lot of this. It did a lot of going off the board. And then it picked some numbers later. But
So, Zoe, it went to Z-O. I thought you knew. So,
I just thought
covered on the end.
now it's more like we did heavy steam.
she said, is this like TV or is it real? I'm like, it's real. Yeah.
Think of like the Led Zeppelin album. They said spell that out. Picky Witch was singing her, but spell that out too, and they didn't know the time.
Then you just,
Okay,
you go
so
right
it's
back
off the
into
boards.
it.
We're gonna put it back on, but Z-O.
I feel like it did go to
Z-O. Okay. Alright. That shit was moving so fast.
it did go to a few more letters, but like nothing that like made that formed a word. But I do feel like it went to like Z and shit again.
Yeah.
So this is from the room. This is from like the FLIR camera. Now we were trying to figure out why this chair was warm. I had been sitting in it earlier, but with like the headphones and stuff. But then after we got everything set, what we did was like 20 minutes on the Ouija board. We had the audio recorder going the whole time, and then I sat down and did like the headphones and the spirit box, which you heard a name that was like, I said a name or something, and then you heard like the TV pause or something, which,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, it could have just moved, but
And it was strange because I heard two names that were sort of significant to me of people that had passed, and I was a little shaken by that, a little unnerved. But the TV popping has always been like kind of a thing, you know, like when you hear those weird pops in the hallway or in the kitchen.
yeah. But then like I had moved, and so we tried to look for like, okay, is the theater glowing and like warming up this area, and so I can't rule out that it was still residual heat. It did seem a little bit weird. I mean, it still says 65. Like when you touch something, it's going to be more, you know, towards 80 after it's like, you know, cooling down. But
And it would be a butt print. Let's just be honest. Like it would be a
Right.
human print.
yeah, I didn't like sit in the whole chair and like. And to me, I know it's just a thing, but I'm like, why does it look like there's like something like there?
It does kind of look like it's running up here.
But then I also feel like that's part of.
We're actively looking for ghosts.
Right. But you know, I dismissed it. I didn't try too hard. But it was a little weird that that was the only thing that was like kind of hot in that area. But nothing like really to like write home about. And then like to finish out the photo slide, this is,
So-
you took this picture, this is theirs.
This is from that presidential suite we talked about before. Looking over the right-hand side, those are the HVAC vents or whatever, and where you see the mouse like on the ground, where that rust accumulates, you can clearly see a dent from where someone had landed.
Fell on it.
So and this was taken last year, so it's still there.
So we didn't have a window, so we were like, oh my god, they told us about this. And so what we did, I was like, in the morning, I'm going to the top of the parking deck that's back there, and I'm gonna take this video. And I did.
So that's supposedly one of the dents, because this was the highest building accessible to the
Look at that
public
architecture.
at a time, and people used to come here to jump off. And we were told by our friends at Spooky Charlotte that you could see dents in the vents if you knew what you were looking for, especially that one.
It's got a shape.
That has a puddle.
It's a puddle, right?
Nature didn't do
Um,
that.
So
Nature did do that, but yes.
That's history out in the wild.
So this is on top of the
The aspirate.
yes,
Hope I'm saying that.
and what we were I didn't include that video, but if you go to our Instagram, you can watch like our whole walkthrough. We were in like somebody's construction, like it looks like they had
And
leased
they
it
were
out.
walking any doors.
No, there were not any doors that you couldn't get in. But we walked up all these and we were like, oh my god, where do these doors go? One was a break room and one was a bathroom, and we're like, fuck it. That's
Somebody's office.
office, yes. And then we went, and it was like the stairs that lead to the street. So if you're walking down the street beside the restaurant, there's there's a door to the street, and that's the stairs we were at. And we heard voices. I don't know who was talking. I would imagine that there were other offices around there. We didn't read too much into that, but there's a chance that was disembodied voices. Right. And so when we were walking back out, there's this thud, and we react to it on the video in the wall, and I was like, shit. And then we're walking back and forth, and then it's oh, there's a floorboard that's tweaking it to make a thud, but it sounded like somebody had banged on the wall as we walked by. So we do try to rule things out when we're going through.
Not everything is a ghost.
Not everything is a ghost. I don't know what makes those dents other than
A humanoid figure.
a humanoid figure. So I don't know, so like you were saying, that's all of our pictures. We'll let you look at this one. So when we were there, we had asked somebody who said she had just started working, and she was like, I don't go back to the banquet halls, right? She's like, I don't go up there. I get this weird feeling. I just don't do it. And that was, I think, about the only story. And then the next morning, we had breakfast, and they were like, did you find anything? We were like, maybe. But yeah, other than those couple things, which I'd never seen a full apparition that I know of. And that was just creepy to hear the footsteps and to see the figure kind of form on the other side of the thing, and just think any minute now that door's gonna open, there's gonna be somebody in this vest, I forget what they were, and they're gonna be like, what are you guys doing in here?
And I'm gonna have to be like, my husband said, here's my
Right.
boss.
Yes, we're looking for the breakfast, the continental breakfast. But no, it was weird because then there was no footsteps away, they kind of dissipated, and then you heard that voice. And those were about the only things, other than the Ouija board kind of acting weird. And then we thought, well, when we go to sleep, maybe we'll hear something. Nothing like that happened. We weren't drunk. We weren't too drunk. We weren't Spooky Charlotte drunk. But so that was our investigation there, our first one. Because we do want to go back. We want to try out the rooms. Am I leaving anything out?
So long story short is the Dunhill haunted? Yes or no? Our findings are
Yes.
But does anyone here think the Dunhill is haunted? Raise your hands. We're gonna have to try harder.
Now you have to judge it. Exactly.
They're so
Yeah, you could just go. we would have hung out at the bar longer if we didn't have curfew. But I think you can just like go in there and like they'll tell you stories. And they were very eager to like show us around, and we're like, could we get a? They were like, yeah, I'll have somebody show you around. And then we found a guy later. We're like, Sabrina said you would show us around. He was like, yeah, let me show you. I was like,
England to try and trace down. They
Yeah.
Yeah, let me bring you back into this dark room where no one's gonna find you.
did you guys want to see the safe? Will we do that? No, yeah,
A
but.
lot of places are not.
What if we bring you to the stairwell with the other dead bodies?
Right, well, we called it book a room. Like, so if you Google certain hotels, you'll find that there's rooms that are haunted. And like, people usually give their numbers. And when we stayed at the Green Park, we asked for those numbers, and they were like, okay, we know what you're
What's the
doing.
big idea?
Right, and we're like, what? No.
Medical kids, they're gone.
Right, and they're like, you will be disappointed if you're coming here with yourself. But this one is so different.
Turns
Because,
out we were disappointed in general.
right, yeah, dust. It was right after like
story that I
right.
came across.
There's worse than
There's horses in
So
my
yeah,
mouth.
that
But no, it's actually a nice.
just one child before he was lost at sea.
That's the window 4906. So if you're driving down Tryon and you look up and you see something spooky in that window,
It might be Jason in my romance package.
yes, I'll be
Who
wearing a
didn't
white
close
robe.
who didn't close the blinds.
They're tested with a white robe. Looking at bring your
Right here.
There you go. Yeah, zoom in.
Right. Right. I think that's this is hands this against.
Yeah, and also the one facing outward.
Right here.
On that same one.
So
906.
and so 401, this is like what, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think ours was this one. It's the other square on the back of the square.
And those aren't just the only two haunted rooms. Whenever we're talking to staff, we actually found out from the bartender that there's a few rooms like 401 where he'll get random calls and someone will pick up the phone, but there'll be no one in that room. So spooky.
Right, and we didn't have a phone ring. We didn't call anybody. I did call the front desk and be like, you know, like tell them to be quiet. But no, some people are trying to
Like, is it what
Right. Well, actually, what was happening is like
2,000
the,
people?
I don't know. This could be like something worth noting. The whatever room is next to 401, your voices go to their face. So don't stay there if you want a private conversation because we can hear everything. We're like, oh shit, it's coming to your face.
Tyler did what?
These guys are really talking to a weed.
Right.
What did it say?
Well, yeah. If you could have heard us, you could have fucked with us so bad. Like you'd have been like, like I'm that demon you're talking about. But yeah, I wonder, like, because that's what I was thinking. Okay, well, this room, if you can hear it through the vents, like, maybe that's some, like, if you hear voices in other rooms, like, could that debunk, like, some of what people are hearing? But you can't really debunk those phone calls, and you can't really debunk the shadowy figure unless somebody was back there. But I didn't include it here because, again, it was a few minutes long. But we walked over to that door and we're like, people through and, like, open it and, like, hello? Like, we're supposed to be in here, right? And then what's weird is when you go up from the bottom to the banquet hall, there's the E&F window. There must be electrical wiring or something because it goes crazy on those steps. And I tried to find them, but like you don't pick up a cable, telephone wires, things like that. So I would say like if you're making something like that, you obviously have to be a little bit mindful. Like you were with the comments, like what's causing?
Yeah.
I
just thought,
maybe
did me closing this like fuck up the recording? But anyway, no, that's it. Now, do you? I think it's still working. Yeah, it fucking works. Maybe. If not, we'll be like, oh, it's like a Patreon exclusive that we lost. So we have like 2 people stay
my grandmother's same,
That's on that.
roughly same time.
Okay. So if when you eventually we get caps out there, like, are you interested enough to like go investigate on scene?
Yeah.
I'm going tonight.
Oh, you're going tonight?
You're staying at the Dunhill Hotel?
No, but I'll go there. I live right there.
Oh, there you go.
You live at the Dunhill? No. Yeah, just pop
Are you
in.
alive?
Yes. Wait, what if we like look out and he's gone? And it's like, no, he was.
I mean, you get to
He
the
was
point
not
where
there the whole time. But so there was
it's going
one
to be,
that I
if
looked
there's
up.
anything, it's going to be in church records.
Dusty is.
Can you tell us about?
Well, so Dusty's kind of like the name that they gave all like kind of like the overarching. If something is missing, something falls off.
Oh, okay. So it
They'll
wasn't
give
one
it the
thing.
name of like Dusty. But like there have also been people who have, and I say people, I read it in an article that they'll see the guy in a bellhop walking with his, limping, wrist thing.
Wait, what?
Exactly. So the only thing is I've only seen that one place. All of these other stories I've heard from multiple people.
What do you think somebody combined those stories, like the skeleton with the bellhop, to make it seem like it was more relevant?
That might have been me by accident.
That is how you have a good story.
That is how you.
Are you making up these stories? Are you making this harder on us?
That's not what I'm missing. So.
Right. But no, we appreciate you setting this up. We appreciate Petty Thieves. He's somewhere. Yeah, we were gonna do this anyway, and it would have sounded just like this. But we appreciate you all listening.
Does anyone have any questions like about ghost hunting or Charlotte stories or?
Yeah, direct Charlotte history.
What's your question?
As an adventure student. She was like, she was either 16 or 19. We have two different records, so we're not sure if she lied and said she was 19.
Well, okay, so when I look at this, I looked at it a bunch of times by myself to be like, but it does look like there's like stuff moving on the other side, right? Okay. I don't want to be that person that like looks at their own shit and is like, y'all see that? Y'all see that?
I take what my says with a grain of salt. She's not a details person. But she says that my great grandmother, like she never read or write or anything. She's like very much
Yeah, so that's
even after she immigrated, like she never really learned how to speak English. She lived in a massive Polish community right in Rapids, Michigan, and so it's just like really easy for her to.
at the same time.
And my great grandfather, he immigrated earlier with his parents and like a stepbrother. He was like a good deal older than my great grandmother.
I still see it.
That was like someone walked past.
Like in the New York side.
Yeah, and there's like there's
Yeah, I'm
nothing.
getting like a glare
Because there's like some stuff stacked on the other side, but this is where
That mirror right there.
Yeah, the mirror. I saw. Oh, maybe that was you. Maybe that is you.
We'll bring it back just a little bit more to the left of where your mouth is.
right.
So when you come into the frame of the mirror to the left, not to the right side, right about
There.
when you see that part of the frame.
Maybe that's just the side of it.
Look at the arch of the doorway. Yeah,
I guess we'll never know.
Right. But no, the figure was on
I
this
love it
side.
though. We have to
Yeah.
debunk. We have to debunk because what when we can't debunk it, it makes it that much better. Yeah.
So there was something on the other side of this, like chairs. But the other wall or the other door was where the figure was standing. But yeah, this whole video and like a couple there, I think we shot 2 live. There are on our Instagram that's at Hex-Files Pod. They're on one of our posts back because they were an IG live and that we posted as a thing. So you can find them on there. And then you can like, that's where we like listen to the hay back and forth, back and forth. But to get it on here, I just did the screen record. So it should be a little bit easier for you if you want to go back to that. But yeah, we've already had some listeners that like played back that stuff and was like, did you hear this? Did you see this? And it was like, did you hear this little tamping on the metal? And I was like, that was probably my jacket button or like the backpack like buckle. But it's cool because it's like we do that, but you know, it helps to have other people review your stuff because
And everybody has a different set of senses. Even when you're in the same room, you don't experience the same thing the same way.
yeah, if I would have listened back, I didn't hear that hay, I would have been like, oh, that sounds cool, but that's just a fucking. But at the time, you were like, oh, I heard that. So that made me think, okay, well, maybe there's something a little bit more to this.
Stuff doesn't stay in
Right, you do be seeing some shit. Oh.
I mean, they're like, you know.
Anyways, well, thank you everyone for coming out.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Watching the Summer Rocks. One more time, I'm Jason with SpookyCLT. But we also have a podcast now, which is called the Old North State Podcast, where we talk more so about North Carolina history. But I can't help but talk about those stories, so they're in there pretty much every episode too. Your stuff.
And then so we're Hex-Files. We are found everywhere you find podcasts. Again, we talk about ghosts and shit, Bigfoot, aliens. Then I have a witchcraft podcast, which is Cursed. Which this is how this started. It was a bonus episode, and then we were like, oh, it just kind of took off while we started investigating everything. But yeah, we've gone to Brown Mountain Lights, things like that. So a cool stuff, and a lot of the stuff we do is in North Carolina. So it's so cool to like kind of do local stuff and to work with somebody. And I think we've tried to like plan some investigations together coming up, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm consistently having businesses reach out to me now saying that they think their place is haunted.
Now
It's
that they
always
know,
the
everybody.
stuff, too.
Yeah.
So now I know something's equipment instead of a Boy Scout compass.
Hey, a compass works. Especially you're the tool.
You are the
Well, we appreciate everybody showing up and actually staying through it.
Really big bedroom. They used to be staff.
Right, our JD's presentation of like 5 pictures and 2 videos. But
like a dressing room
Well,
and
I
a
want to do
bathroom.
jazzy transition.
But there were like 3 of us to the room. So my bed was like in the middle.
right, like they spin in and out, and there's like little
White.
right, and then we can put stickers and little like flip art in there.
But
There's something
no.
between my ankles. Which is
Yeah,
like
next
when
time
my
we'll
cat
do a
used
whole
to sleep
pack.
when I'd be at home with my parents.
Okay, so and if none of this works, then it'll just be a private